when you get into someone else's head and you see how they are, you realize everyone sounds such like cliche. I almost hate to say it, but we're all human beings. We all have the same problems, but we have different cultures. We brought up differently, and sometimes those things clash. But when we learn about each other, that's the first step, I think, into understanding and appreciating each other.
Welcome to the Shine Strategy Podcast, where entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business owners are getting visible and changing the world. I'm your host, Heather Burgett, an award-winning publicist, entrepreneur, and business mentor. Today's show is sponsored by PR Stars. For more inspiration and Shine strategies, head over to shineinsiders.com now for my free masterclass so that you too can get visible and go from local to global. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I have such an incredible guest for you all, and I know a lot of you are big fans of his work. Many of you have seen the wonderfully beautiful film, Green Book, and we have today Nick Vallelonga, who is the man behind the story. In fact, Nick won 2 Oscars this year, not just one, but 2, for Best Original Screenplay and Best Picture. And Nick is here today to share with us some behind the scenes of what it took to get this film made and out into the world to possibly one of the biggest platforms that is out there in the world, the Oscars. So with that being said, hi, Nick. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me.
So your story is so incredible, and we had the good fortune of being able to meet just recently at the Beverly Hills Film Festival, where you had another film screening, Unorganized Crime, which you directed. And I want to start just by first going back to, because it's such an incredible experience that you had, that night that you won those 2 Oscars. The first question it seems that everyone asks is, how does it feel? And truly, that is such an incredible question because so few people get to experience what you've experienced. So can you take us back to that night and let us know how it actually felt to have this accomplishment and win those 2 Oscars?
I've said this also the night we won the Golden Globes. It was very surreal. And, not that I didn't think we would win. You're nominated. So, you're there, you want to win. But it was never the most important thing to me. I never thought of winning awards when we first, doing the movie. I just wanted to make as good a film as we could make. And I think I was a little shocked with both. When they said our name for Best Screenplay, I was shocked. And when Best Picture. Because it's a big deal. It's a long, long road to get there. This year in particular was pretty tough. There was a lot of good films in there, and I was a little bit of a daze in a way. Like it's a very surreal feeling and experience because you watch this your whole life on TV. It's one of those things, and then to actually be there. It was weird. People have asked me. I felt like I was still watching it on television when I was in New York. Just like watching it. I didn't really feel that I was there until I was up on the stage going, I'm up on this stage.
Wow. It's like being in your own movie.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah. And it really did kind of seem like Green Book was this dark horse that obviously you had won the Golden Globe, but like you said, there was some stiff competition, and I think it did surprise a lot of people. And I have to say that I was so pleasantly surprised when I watched the film, and I had not seen it yet before the Oscars, which is rare. I usually try to see as many films as possible. I'm such a film buff. And when I watched it, I was just so moved in the way that you told the story. And for anyone that hasn't seen it yet, just really quickly, it's based on the story of your father, Frank Anthony Vallelonga, played by Viggo Mortensen, who struck up a friendship with pianist Dr. Don Shirley, played by Oscar winner Mahershala Ali. And they go on a trip through the segregated Deep South in 1962. And you just managed to capture this incredible story between these 2 men dealing with race issues, class issues, and just so much that was seen through a different lens than I've seen it before. And I'd love to hear a little bit about what your mission was within telling this story and, how that sort of happened. Like, was it a calling that you felt like at some point, like, I just have to tell my dad's story?
I always felt that from when I was very young. When I first heard this story, I thought it was a special story. And then as I knew I wanted to be a filmmaker, I always wanted to make this as a movie. So I interviewed my dad. I taped him back then, cassette tape recording. And then I got his whole side of it. And then I spoke to Dr. Shirley many, many, many times and got his blessing and his side of it. And he told me what I could and could not put in. But one of the things he said was, he said, I don't want you to make this until I pass away, whenever that may be. So I respected his wishes. And luckily, he lived a nice, long life. He was in his 80s. And I think he passed in 2013, the same year as my dad passed, coincidentally.
Oh, my goodness.
And then I was, I said, I'm going to try to get this done. I was originally going to do it myself and do it on a very small scale, because I'd done some independent films that I directed and produced. But my friend Brian Curry was talking, and we were talking about possibly writing together. And I thought, well, maybe I'll write this with him. And he spoke to Peter Farrelly, director and writer, that everyone would know from Dumb and Dumber, Something About Mary, all those great comedies.
Great films, yeah.
And I met with Pete. He loved the story. And I just I made a decision of, put my ego aside. It was very close to me in this film. It's about my father. But I really, I loved Pete when I met him, and I trusted him. And we decided we'd all write together and produce together. And I'd still be part of it from soup to nuts. And Pete was very gracious in having me be a very big part of it and very participant in a lot of the creative decisions. So it worked out. I think I made the right decision. So it was a beautiful, beautiful job directing the film.
Yeah, I mean, it's critically acclaimed and just received so many accolades. And, everyone that I've talked to, that I've ever mentioned it to, says they absolutely love the film. And people that I've told that I was going to talk to you for the podcast, they were so excited. You have a lot of fans out there that really, really love this work that you've created. And if we go back to, now you said you started recording, and what was the first time you did that? Like, how old were you when you actually started getting those interviews down on tape?
How old was I? I was 5. No, I lived the story when I was around 5. I went to Dr. Shirley's apartment and saw the above Carnegie Hall, and that's where I saw the grand piano and the chandelier and the throne and him in his beautiful African robes. That memory was always in my head. And then like around 1989, 90, 91, like those are the years I started recording my dad and talking to Dr. Shirley about it. So it was a long time ago. You weren't even born then.
I actually was, but we don't have to talk about that.
Yeah, so then I started, for my own self, I had all my notes. I started writing out some treatments in my own head and in my own notes, blocking out ideas, and kind of had the gist of the beginning, middle, and end. But then we really honed that and worked it. The three of us sat and wrote the script together.
Now, I find it so interesting, in this story, we see your dad's experience in working in clubs and then being a driver. And then he actually got into acting himself and became very well known, being in major films from The Godfather to Goodfellas, and then probably most famously known for playing crime boss Carmine Lupertazzi in the HBO series The Sopranos. So then you also got into acting as well as a young man. Is that correct?
Yes. So I started out as an actor. I always was writing, though. I always wrote some stories and little books, and then I started writing some screenplays in my early 20s and acting. I did a lot of theater in New York, a lot of training in New York, and started doing bit parts and things. And so I was pursuing writing. The first script I got made was a film called Deadfall with Nicolas Cage. And then I did a lot of like little independent ones, some bad ones and some okay ones, small indie things. And throughout that, I started, producing myself and directing and acting. And I was like one of those guys that was just sort of knocking around in the minor leagues for a long time. But I always believed in this story and believed it should be told. And it fell together, the right combination of people. It turned out better than I imagined because I really believed it was going to be really, really good. And especially when I was working with Pete and we got the actors that we got and the level of care that everyone put into making the film. So I thought you knew it was going to be a great film, I think. I felt it. I felt it on the set. I mean, even crew people were very, very respectful and very like we have something special here. But as far as winning awards go, I wasn't thinking of any of that. I don't think any of us were. We just thought, wow, we have a great story with some special actors, bring it to life, great director, and this is going to be something good. And then we started testing it with audiences, and you really see the response of people and how emotionally they got at the end of the film and saying this is an important movie, it should be seen. So it turned out really, really well, and I'm really, really thrilled and very proud of it.
Yeah, it really has. It's like an emotional impact that kind of sneaks up on you, and by the end, you just feel this warmth and this love. And what was in the story itself to you? What was the most important thing that you wanted audiences to come away with?
Well, I think Pete always said it's about hope, the end, and I believe that too. I mean, listen, there's a lot of controversy about the movie that we took racism lightly. I don't think we took it lightly at all. I mean, it's very, very what happened to Don Shirley and what my father learned about racism changed his entire life. But there's a lot of humor in the film because the humor comes out of the character that my father was and the situations and him and Don Shirley's banter between themselves. And Don Shirley, very great sense of humor, and it was very what an intelligent, amazing man he was. So there is some lightheartedness to it, but not lightheartedness surrounding the issue of race. So it's our take. It was our tone. But I still think it hits. People are shocked at some of the things that Don Shirley went through. I also think it shows hope at the end. It shows change, how people can change. Some people criticize, oh, yeah, all of a sudden he just changed. Well, it's a movie, so you only get 2 hours to show the change. But my father's life did change and how he thought of racism and realized how horrible it is and some of the things that he had done in his past. So you had to show some of those things at the beginning about him. Otherwise, you'd never really see it, the change. And he was very adamant and said, you got to put this in and put this in because you have to show it in order to see how horrible it was and then see how I was changed by the experience of spending all that time with Dr. Shirley in the South. So that was our take. I think people responded to it. And it's only one story about a very, very heavy, important subject. And there should be lots of stories told about it. And this is one in particular, a little slice of life movie is what we called it. Really, it's about two people. It's about two human beings, two guys in a car and how they got to know each other and come to respect each other, and two opposites who became friends.
Beautiful. Yeah. And truly, it just so much about friendship and breaking the racial divides. And, it's happening these days in the current state of our world and our country. It's sad to think that it is still such an important message. This was back in 1962 when these things were happening. And how do you feel like that impacts people today? I mean, do you feel that the message is just as important for today's audience?
Yeah, I think that a message is always important to tell. I mean, it is odd that it's still that important, but it goes on. I do think that things are much better, but I think things are not, nothing is perfect. We have to keep working at relationships and working on how we treat each other and how human beings react to each other. So it's a very important topic. It's like I said, it's not an answer other than communicating. We should need to communicate and talk to each other. When you get into someone else's head and you see how they are, you realize everyone, it sounds such a cliche, I almost hate to say it, but we're all human beings. We all have the same problems, but we have different cultures. We brought up differently, and sometimes those things clash. But when we learn about each other, that's the first step, I think, into understanding and appreciating each other. So I think the movie's for everyone. There was a comment made recently that, oh, this was made for older white people. I don't agree. I never thought that. I thought everyone should see the movie. And young people are shocked by what they see. I've had many kids, teenagers, love the film, saying, I didn't know that. I can't believe that happened that so much recently, that was still going on, that type of stuff. So I think it's a learning experience. It's a topic of conversation. I think it did what it was supposed to do. It touched people. It made people talk. It made people communicate. Black and white audiences seem to respond to it for the most part. There's always going to be people that don't like it or have issues, but you can't please everyone. But I certainly think the message that we tried to put out was done with love and respect. We all knew that while we were making the film, from the writing to the producing to the directing, the actors, very much aware of this is important. We have to tell this the right way. We have to show respect to the characters and what happened. For the most part, I think people have really responded to it. So, hey, one best picture, it can't be that bad.
Absolutely. I think that's a bit of affirmation for you there. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's such a powerful message. And when things are so divided, especially in our country right now, it's just one example, I think, of a solution that can work on a much larger scale. So you specifically address it through this race relationship where they actually get to know each other and learn about each other and start to see each other as human beings. And it seems like when people have differences, no matter what they are, race, class, whatever politics, whatever the divide is, that when we stop and actually listen and get to know someone, that can cross such huge boundaries and bring people together. So thank you. Thank you for putting that message out into the world. And it's such a great example to help people in this really challenging time that we're going through. And I would love to hear if you could go back and tell yourself, a younger version of yourself, one thing, give yourself one bit of advice. What would that be?
Become a doctor and not get into the film industry.
I believe you. I know how challenging the film business can be. So
the one thing I would say to everyone is you got to believe in yourself, and you can't give up. Several times I wanted to give up. Several times I thought, well, I'm not making the type of films I wanted to make. I don't have the success. And I don't mean it by success like in the terms of notoriety or stuff, but I struggled. I was up, down. I did well sometimes. I didn't do well sometimes. It wasn't for me. It was a bit of a roller coaster. It wasn't a consistent thing. And you sacrifice certain things in your life, and you fight for something, and sometimes you wonder, oh, am I making a mistake? But the one thing I did do is I believed in myself. I really felt if I had the right opportunities, I could make something good. And I think the Green Book success is important on many levels for me. It's finally breaking out into the type of film I want to make, but because it had a good message, I think that's really what was important to me. So hanging in there and fighting for what you believe in means a lot. You got to also, I think, there comes a place I just thought, what else can I do? This is what I know. This is what I love to do. I like telling stories, but I wanted to tell stories that meant something. And I fell into a bit of a trap. I was just, to work, you just start doing anything. And that would be the thing I'd probably tell myself. Don't just do anything. Keep on trying to do things that mean something. And that could be just to entertain with laughter or whatever. Entertainment is great too. Just mindless entertainment is fun. We like those type of movies and stories. But I think it says something that even though it took me such a long time, that the one thing that finally broke out for me was something that was important to people and touched people. So I'd say persevere, hang in there, but keep trying to do the right thing. And if you keep trying to do the right thing, I think eventually it'll happen.
I love that. I feel like that is something we talk a lot about in my community, is that when you're truly pursuing something that your heart is in, that you're passionate about, that those are the times that things really line up for you because you kind of get into this flow and it just feels meant to be sometimes when you're really in that pure place of following your heart and your passion. Would you agree with that?
Listen, you can't achieve everything. The fact that this film took on a life of its own and won the awards it did is the cliche saying is this: the cherry on the cake. The rewards was something, but the reward of making it and seeing the reaction of people and having people come over and saying how important it was and what it meant to them, that really is a blessing, and you can't manufacture that. So that is more important than anything. Just doing something from the heart and making people feel good. That was a wonderful experience for me.
And I mean, you arguably got to one of the largest possible stages on the planet to share your story and have the world know about it and see it. And what would you say that sort of platform or visibility, how has that changed your life?
Well, for me, it was a bit of a, there's a lot of controversies involved with the film and a lot of stuff being said, and most of it not true. And so it tainted it a little bit for me because I didn't ever think of it as a competition. But man, what a brutal competition! I mean, people want that statue, which is understandable. I mean, winning awards like this, it's money. It raises the box office. Everyone wants to win once you're in it, but film is different to me. Like it's when I was an athlete, and I'm not athlete in the sense of just a regular kid playing ball and stuff. I was always taught you respect the other team, win or lose. So when we won, we'd shake hands, and when we lost, we shook hands, and you move on. And I think losing teaches you a lot about when you get the chance to win, also to respect everyone else. And I was just like thrilled to be in this world of on that level with so many talented people and so many great films and talented films. As much as it is a competition when it comes into the award stuff, I didn't think of it as a competition. And I wasn't angry if we didn't win something. I was happy. Oh, look at all these great movies. But it got a little dark there for a while.
Hmm. And, I totally can see how that would happen in this, as they call it, the business and how people get very competitive. But it's so true. I love what you said about that sort of win or lose attitude that you had personally going into it, is because you were just so happy to get this story that your heart had been in for so many years, and to get it out into the world was really the biggest accomplishment for you. Then, of course, it's like awards. Well, that's gravy on top. But for you, it sounds like the real win was just getting the film made and knowing the audiences were actually able to see it.
Yes. And working with some great people. Octavia Spencer was involved in this. Mahershala Ali, who won practically every award you could for it, the best supporting actor, and every time he was nominated. Amazing, amazing person and actor, Viggo Mortensen. Just a wonderful human being, and what an incredible, incredible job. And he really uplifted this production with how much he cared and how much he put into it. And for me, very emotional, tremendous job he did playing my father. Linda Cardellini playing my mom, all the cast members and producers, and Brian Curry, the other writer, with Pete Farrelly and I, who directed it. And Pete did a beautiful, beautiful job. It was so important to him, this film. So it was just, a wonderful thing all the way down the line. Just probably, obviously the best film experience I've ever had. So I'm just glad that, worldwide box office, I think it's over 320 million, something like that. So people like it. So the awards, we got those too, but if we didn't, to me, it was more important that it got out in the world and the people liked it. Critics and at least some critics and other naysayers, he said, you can't please everybody. But I love film. I loved all the other films that were nominated. I think Vigo should have won Best Actor because, obviously I'm prejudiced toward that, but I loved Rami Malek and Bohemian Rhapsody. So all the movies and all the filmmakers I thought were excellent, and it was an honor to be in that world, and happy that we came out with a couple of them.
Yeah, I mean, all around, it was just so beautifully done. And for anyone out there that hasn't seen it, I hope that you run out. And I think it's on all the streaming platforms now. I keep seeing it popping up on demand, and I think Amazon and all these other places. So do not miss this film. It is so beautifully done. And I know you have some exciting new things coming up for yourself with projects. And what are you most excited about that's coming up for you?
Well, I had a little role in the. Can't talk too much about it because we're not allowed to talk about it. But in the upcoming Sopranos prequel, "The Many Saints of Newark,"
Ooh, that's going to be a good one.
yes, really, really good. That was it's a great honor for me to be in that. It's a little legacy to my dad because my dad was in the original series.
Yes.
So that was nice. They asked me to play a role in that, so that was exciting. I already filmed my scenes in that, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. It's really going to be something. James Gandolfini's son Michael is playing young Tony Soprano. It's a great cast: Alessandro Nivolo, John Bernthal, Vera Farmiga. It's a lot of great actors. Corey Stoll. So I think people are going to really swarm that one because people are waiting to see that. That was fun. I'm doing a small action movie that I had written. It's been on and off for a while, well before Green Book, called 1000. It's an action cop thriller with Nicolas Cage.
And you said small action thriller starring Nicolas Cage. I don't believe it's small.
Yes. It's an indie, it's going to be a cool little indie gritty thing directed by Christian Sesma, producing. I wrote the script with Paul Sloan, and we're doing that this summer. But I'm going to be I have a novel based on a Christian bestseller, The Reunion, that I'm adapting for a screenplay, and I'm hoping to do that right after 1000 in the fall. I have an actor attached to that. I can't mention it yet officially, but he was a nominee for something this year. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's a beautiful, beautiful, like It's a Wonderful Life type of a story. I'll be directing that. And then I have a romantic comedy, That's Amore, which I'll probably do after The Reunion. So hopefully I'll be pretty busy for a little while.
It sounds like it.
And some nice opportunities, which is wonderful. So, but I'll probably be directing most of these from this point forward.
Oh, beautiful. So, and you'll still be doing some writing, but moving more into the directing?
Yeah, I think things because most of the things I have are more personal to me. So, I'll probably direct most of the things I write, unless it's an outside writing assignment. But I'm looking to just direct some of the things I've written and move forward in that direction.
Wow. Well, it's so exciting. I can't wait to see what other stories you bring to us because you have a knack for definitely telling a story in a unique way that really does impact people and get some sort of an emotional response, which it is an art to do that. So thank you for your beautiful work. And I'd love to find out if you have any last thoughts or inspiration for our listeners today.
Well, first, thanks for having me here. And again, I think stories that touch people, move people, are uplifting, can make people laugh and or cry in a good way and touch them emotionally. I think those are the ones that we remember. Those are the ones that I remember growing up, going back to It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh my gosh, that's one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, I mean, I was very influenced by films like that. Frank Capra. My favorite stuff is not far removed from what everyone liked. I mean, I loved Frank Capra films. I loved Orson Welles, for his artistic excellence. Elia Kazan, directors like that. Vittorio De Sica, Bicycle Thief. I studied film, and Walt Disney movies. I mean, just films that you left the theater feeling good. And then right on through to, obviously, the classic guys that I grew up loving, Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg. They all made films that stay with you. And I think and hope Green Book is one of those. hopefully I can maybe pull off another one or two like that in the near future.
I have no doubt that you can. And, you just mentioned so many of the greats. And what do you think the secret is to all of like the thread that ties all of those filmmakers together in terms of how they impact people?
Well, I think it's their heart, emotion. They're able to, through their skill and artistry, make you feel something. They know how to touch you. And I think that comes from a sense of truth. There's got to be some truth there. And ultimately that comes from love. And whether it doesn't matter if it's a violent film or if it's a family film, if you're telling the truth, I think people are affected. That's what we try to do with Green Book. We try to stick to the truth as much as possible and convey a message. And I think those are the most important type of films, and filmmaking can touch people in amazing ways. So that's why it's such an interesting, important art form. And I think when it's done well, it really, for me, film has been everything. I grew up fascinated by movies, and I remember the ones that really resonated and touched me. And like I said, it could be a Coppola movie, it could be a Walt Disney movie. Frank Capra, Spielberg. I think these guys are the classic guys that really know how to get emotion out of people, and that's what I'm trying to do as well.
And you are doing a very good job. I mean, these are masters of storytelling, and I see you as a master of storytelling as well. You have a heart of gold, and you're putting it out there for people to receive and learn from. And I just think it's so beautiful what you're doing, and I can't wait to see the next projects to come from you.
I appreciate that. It's very kind of you to say. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and we're just so grateful. I know you're very busy and you've given us a lot of your time today, and we're so grateful for that. And I'm sure you're going to be inspiring lots of the listeners that are here today. And you guys, you all heard it here. Don't stop. Don't give up. I often say, don't quit before the miracle, and stick with it, right? Like that's one of the secrets. Just don't give up.
I think, and we said it earlier, I think failing is important, because you learn, you grow, you teach yourself, you hopefully pick yourself up. It's, that whole thing about falling down and then just picking yourself up and moving forward. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes as long as you learn by them and you strive to do better. So filmmaking is like that. I mean, some people are gifted and can get it right the first time, but others, you got to keep working at it. So whatever your situation, and you love it, and you feel that you have a story to tell, just go for it and do the best you can and keep fighting to make it as excellent as it could be.
I love that. And yeah, there's a concept I heard, and I forget, I'm not going to be able to credit it properly because I forget who said it, but someone out there is talking about failing forward. And I love that concept because so often we look at failure as like, oh, it's, something that stops you or ruins things. But it actually is the best thing that can happen to a lot of people, a lot of us, as we're growing and developing our visions, our business, our project, whatever it is, because it brings you closer to where you're supposed to be and whatever path that is that you're supposed to be on. So great point. And thank you again, Nick, so much for being here today. And hopefully we can have you back again soon.
I would love to. And I really appreciate you asking me, and great questions. And I would love to do it again sometime, anytime.
Beautiful. Well, best of luck with the upcoming projects, and we will see you again soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today for the Shine Strategy Podcast. I invite you to join me at shineinsiders.com for a free masterclass where you can get more inspiration and strategies to get visible and change the world. Your voice matters. Please subscribe, rate, and share this show so we can continue to grow on this journey together. Until the next one, it's Heather Burgett, your Shine strategist, signing off.